Yeah, now it
Yeah,
should work.
it's all right. Rambam. Perfect. Just
I
check
don't I
you
don't see
online.
it.
I'm checking from my side as well. Check.
It's not on
Yes, we're live.
CCK.
Shit, it's on Facebook. What?
Und it's not
YouTube.
on Facebook, Rabat Zichron Kedoshim.
No, try maybe then.
Now it's yeah now and on Rabbi One fine. Yeah, it works. It's only there's a time difference. Yeah, it works.
Okay. It works. Even on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you. Be well. Bye. All right. What challenge is here? Okay, so we are in chapter 6 of the other types of impurities. And now we're going into impurity of false deities, is of rabbinic origin. We spoke about creepy crawlers. We spoke about non-kosher or kosher, something that's kosher, but became a carcass, right? That was what we spoke about yesterday. Now we speak about that which is a deity, a false deity, right? So it's only rabbinic in origin, but there's an allusion to it in the Torah. Remove the foreign gods that are in your midst. Purify yourselves and change your garments. That's actually when Jacob ran away with his wife and kids from Lavan, his father-in-law, right? So that's the reference there. So it's not a law because it's a narrative as opposed to God saying, that this makes you impure. But that is the rabbinic origin. Rabbinic law is sort of like, where's God hinting that we should augment the law, where we should make boundaries around the law, where it's necessary for reasons because of, the nature of society and nature of human being. Okay, so that's the allusion, the hint. There are 4 primary categories in ritual impurity associated with worship of false deities: the false deity themselves, right? So whatever that deity might be. The accessories to the deity. So it's not the deity itself, but if you dress it up, something offered to the deity, and wine libation offered to it. Wine libation across the board, because that's a often used way of serving the deity. The impurity associated with all these are of rabbinic origin. Now, remember what impurity means in a person. Well, we'll see. When you touch it, it doesn't mean that when you're serving the false deity, when you serve the false deity, that's a different law. Don't serve another god. We're talking about if you're going to have it in your possession and you're going to, right? You're not serving it. You know that this is like, right? But you own it. You're selling it, or I mean, not selling it even. You touched it. It makes you impure. What's the point? Well, no, you don't associate, because that impurity means that now you can engage in pure holy things, like you can study Torah, because Torah you can always study when you're impure. You know why? Because Torah is like fire. And fire purifies, right? You put gold and silver dig it up from the ground, you put it into fire, it separates between the dross and the pure gold. So Torah is like fire. It separates. So therefore, even in a state of purity, it's okay. But if you're a Kohen eating your truma, it's not okay. Or if you're going to Jerusalem for the festivals and in times of Holy Temple, and you're bringing your second tithe, you need to do that all in holiness. Or you're bringing an offering at any time in the Holy Temple, right? You need to do that in holiness. So then, I mean, we'll speak about this over here. Okay, the false deity itself impairs impurity to persons and kalim, those are implements, vessels, when touched, and to earthenware container when it enters its inner space. Earthenware container is unique, right? Touch doesn't make it impure. So, you took your mug. I have a mug over here somewhere. Yeah, I have my Tanya mug over here. And you bring it and you touch one of the four things that we mentioned in the first. You touch it, it becomes impure, right? You shall certainly regard it as disgusting. Oh, sorry. Inner space. Like the carcass of a teeming animal, it does not impart impurity when carried. Right, so we learned that actually yesterday. Carcass of a teeming animal, crawling, animal, does not impart when you carry it, only when you touch it. So the same idea is over here. You shall certainly regard as disgusting. Minimum measure of imparts impurity is an olive-sized portion. It should not be more stringent than a portion of a corpse. If an image is less than an olive size, it is pure. Right, so if it's less than olive size, right, is minimum size. If one cut off a limb from it, even as it is as large as a steering rod of a plow, it is pure. The rationale is that the false deity does not impart impurity when separated into limbs, only when the entire image is intact, as can be inferred from the verse, cast your idols away like someone impure. Just as the limbs of an impure person do not impart impurity, so too the limbs of false deity do not impart impurity. Right? Because, I guess also tied in with the idea and based on the verse, but kind of loses its importance to a person who serves at idolatry when it's only a limb of it, right? So if it's a limb of a cow in India, that's a false deity, right? So that limb would not impart impurity. Its impurity was established according to the leniencies applying to all primary categories of impurity. Since its impurity is of rabbinic origin, it's considered as a carcass of a teeming animal, does not impart impurity when carried, like a corpse of an olive-sized portion is required. And like a nida, the limit of it does not impart impurity. So rabbinic law always wants to kind of mirror biblical law. Right, but it's going to do it in a more lenient manner for the most part. Why? Because it's rabbinic law, so it's not going to be more harsher than biblical law. So just like in biblical law, when it comes to the carcass of the teeming animal, right, it only imparts by touching, not by carrying. So we'll compare it to that, right, to that impurity. And for a manida, meaning a woman is menstruating, right, in that the limb of it does not impart impurity. I don't know what it means here by the limb, by the woman who's menstruating. Oh, no. Give me a second. I'm not clear on that. So the nida doesn't impart to something that is not certain. Okay. Number 4, when a false deity was separated into parts, even though it could be reassembled by an ordinary person and all of its parts are present, it does not impart impurity. Yeah. In other words, the fact that it's could be reassembled, how do you look at it now? Do you look at it as if it's an assembled deity or not? So we're saying, no, it doesn't impart impurity. So it means we don't look at it, even though it can be put together very easily. Right now, it's in pieces, right? Not broken pieces, but pieces you can, assemble. Still doesn't impart impurity. All of the accessories of the false deity are like the carcass of a teeming animal. Okay, now that was speaking about the deity itself. Now we're talking about the accessories, right? You gave your deity, a scarf because it's wintertime and, it might get a little cold. So, so that's an accessory. They impart impurity to the persons in the kalim when touched, and it's earthenware container when they enter in the inner space. So remember, it's only by touch, right? So you touch that scarf that you put around that deity, right? Or I don't know if in India, they put something, something around its neck to make it, look pretty. So that's an accessory. So if you touch that, even though it's not the deity itself, you also become impure. They do not impart impurity when carried, similar as to the deity itself. The minimum measure that imparts impurity is an olive-sized portion. Even if one cut off the olive-sized portion from an implement, it imparts impurity like a carcass of a teeming animal. So here you do cut off a part, it still imparts impurity. In this context, the law applying to the accessories of false deity is more stringent than the false deity itself, right? It's false deity said it didn't. Let's see. Here's an explanation here. I guess because, accessory, like if it's half a scarf, it's half a scarf, right? But the deity itself has to be whole. That, people are worshiping not half a deity, not the limb of the statute, but the whole statute, right? That's what they. So we only got the limb of the statute, so there's not a sense of a deity there. But an accessory, if it's half a scarf, it's also something, right? So therefore, it would impart impurity. That's my understanding. When, with regard to a shrine in which false deity is worshipped, its stones, its beams, and its earth all impart impurity when the olive-sized portion has been touched, as all of the other accessories of false deity. So the shrine, right? Its stones, beams, earth, everything is going to impart impurity. Doesn't refer to an instance where the building itself is worshipped, right? It's the shrine where you have the deity in it, not that the building is being worshipped. Okay, I have to stop here. A pleasure, folks. God bless you all.